Bonus notification came through at 11,047 on a Tuesday morning, and I sat in my car in the parking garage for a full 4 minutes just staring at the number on my phone screen. $14,000. My manager had already sent a follow-up email before I even made it back to my desk. Subject line: confidential. Compensation adjustment. I clicked it standing in the elevator, one hand gripping the brass rail, and read the words twice to make sure I hadn't misread them. Effective the 1st of next month, I was being moved from senior analyst to finance manager. The salary jump was 31%. The email said the decision had been unanimous across the review committee. I called my mom on the walk back to my office. She picked up on the second ring and cried a little, which made me cry a little, and then we both laughed at ourselves. She told me my dad would want to take me to dinner that weekend. I said yes before she even finished the sentence. I texted my husband on my lunch break. Big news. Can you talk tonight? Something really good happened. He replied 4 hours later. Sure. Just that, sure. I told myself he was busy. He worked from home managing a few rental property listings for a real estate investor he'd connected with 2 years ago. It wasn't exactly demanding, but he stayed occupied, and I'd learned not to read too much into short texts. That was the story I told myself for a long time, that I was reading too much into things. When I got home that evening, he was on the couch, feet up on the coffee table, watching something on his laptop with headphones on. He didn't hear me come in. I set my bag down, changed out of my heels, poured a glass of water, and stood in the kitchen doorway for a moment looking at him. I waited. He took one earbud out eventually. Hey. I sat down on the chair across from him. So I got some big news today. He set the laptop to the side. I noticed he didn't close it. I told him about the promotion, finance manager, the salary, the bonus already deposited. I watched his face while I talked, and the thing that I keep coming back to, even now, is that his expression didn't change at the beginning. He just looked at me. Not happy, not upset, just still. That's a lot of responsibility, he said. I know, I'm excited about it. You're already pretty stretched thin. I paused. I mean, it's a promotion. It's what I've been working toward for 3 years. He nodded slowly, like I just told him something mildly inconvenient. Yeah. Good for you. He put the earbud back in. I sat there for another moment. Then I got up and made dinner by myself. I want to be honest about something because I think it matters for everything that came after. My husband and I had been together for 6 years, married for 3. We met when we were both in pretty similar places. I was an entry-level analyst. He was doing some part-time property management work while he figured out his next move. We built a life together on a roughly equal financial footing. Then I got my CPA license. Then I got promoted to senior analyst. Then I got this. And somewhere along the way, without either of us naming it out loud, the dynamic shifted. I made more money. Significantly more. I paid the larger share of the mortgage on the house we bought together in Charlotte. I covered most of the utilities, the groceries, both of our health insurance premiums through my employer plan. He contributed what he could from the property management work, which had been inconsistent for the better part of a year. I didn't resent it, that's the truth. I genuinely didn't. I loved him, and I believed we were a team, and I thought that if the situation were reversed, he'd do the same for me. That belief is what made everything that happened next so disorienting. About 2 weeks after I got the promotion, I came home to find my husband sitting at the kitchen table with a yellow legal pad in front of him and a pen in his hand, and an expression on his face I'd never quite seen before. Settled. Like he'd made a decision and was now simply waiting to communicate it. I've been thinking, he said before I'd even put my bag down, and I want to talk to you about something. I sat down. Okay. My brother is in a bad spot. He lost his job in March and he's been couch surfing since then. He can't keep doing that. He tapped the pen on the legal pad. I want him to move in with us. I took a breath. His brother and I had always had a polite but careful relationship. He was 38 years old. He'd had a series of jobs that never quite worked out, and he had a pattern of cycling back to family members when things got difficult. For how long? I asked. Just until he gets back on his feet. How long is that realistically? A few months. He said it without hesitation, the way you say something when you've rehearsed it. I'd want to talk more about the details before we decide anything. Like, what does contributing to the household look like for him? Is there a timeline? He's my brother. His voice went flat. I'm not going to charge my brother rent. I didn't say rent. I said contributing. That could mean a lot of things. He stood up from the table. You know what? Forget I brought it up. I thought you'd be more understanding. He walked out of the kitchen. I sat there looking at the yellow legal pad which he'd left behind. He'd written 3 columns on it. Income, expenses, spare room. He'd already decided before he sat down with me. I didn't say anything else about it that night. His brother moved in on a Saturday morning. Nobody asked me again. Nobody confirmed a timeline. I came downstairs to find 2 men carrying a couch at my front steps that was not my couch. And by noon, the spare room had been converted into something that looked like it was meant to be permanent. I texted my closest friend. He moved his brother in. I'm standing in my kitchen, and I don't know what to say. She called me immediately. What do you mean he moved him in? I mean, his stuff is here. He has a couch now. His brother brought a couch. Did you agree to this? I said I wanted to talk about it more. I don't think that's the same as agreeing. She was quiet for a moment. Then, you need to say something. I knew she was right. But here's the thing about conflict when you've spent years keeping the peace. You get so practiced at swallowing things that the reflex kicks in before you can stop it. I'd been doing it for so long I'd convinced myself it was patience. It wasn't patience. It was fear dressed up as kindness. I made it until Sunday evening. We were at dinner, all 3 of us, and his brother was talking about a business idea he'd been developing, something about dropshipping. He was very enthusiastic about it. He asked if he could use the second bathroom to set up a content space for social media videos. My husband said, "Sure, just make it work." I set my fork down. That bathroom is also a shared space for guests. His brother looked at me. My husband looked at me. I just want to make sure we're thinking about how the house functions for everyone, I said. My husband waited until his brother had gone to his room that night. Then he turned to me and said, "Why do you have to make everything so difficult?" I asked a reasonable question. He's going through something. He needs support. I understand that. I'm also trying to understand what the actual plan is here, because I pay the mortgage on this house and nobody has talked to me about any of this. He went very still. So this is about money. This is about being included in decisions about my own home. Your home. He said it back to me slowly, like he was tasting something bitter. Our home. That I pay the majority of the mortgage on. He walked away. That was the end of the conversation. For the next 3 weeks, I lived inside a kind of low-grade dread. His brother settled in completely. He was up at all hours. He used the kitchen at midnight. He had friends over twice without asking. My husband said nothing to him about any of it. When I raised it, I was being hostile or making him feel unwelcome or not being a good partner. I started keeping track of things, which I'm not proud of, but I needed to feel like I wasn't going crazy. I opened a notes app and started writing down dates and what was said. Not because I was planning anything. At that point, I genuinely wasn't. But because I needed to trust my own memory when everything around me was being reframed in real time. I also started talking to my friend more. She was the one who first said out loud what I hadn't let myself think. We were on the phone and I was walking around the block because I needed to be out of the house, and she said, "Do you think any of this is connected to your promotion?" I stopped walking. "What do you mean?" "I mean the timing. Everything started right after you got promoted." He didn't respond well to the news. Then suddenly, he's making unilateral decisions about your home, making you feel like you owe something, like your success needs to be balanced out somehow. I stood on the sidewalk in the dark and I thought about the legal pad with the 3 columns. I thought about his face the night I told him, that stillness, that flatness, that good for you before he put the earbud back in. "Yeah," I said. "I think maybe it is." I made an appointment with a financial advisor the following week. I told no one. I just called the number my company's HR department had on file for their employee assistance program and made an appointment for a Tuesday at noon. His name was a fairly ordinary name, a guy in his mid-50s with a legal pad of his own and reading glasses he kept sliding down his nose. He asked me to walk him through my financial picture. I did. Income, shared accounts, mortgage, my contributions versus my husband's contributions, the bonus, the raise. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "Have you spoken with an attorney?" "Not yet. I was hoping I wouldn't need to." He looked at me over his reading glasses. "I'd recommend you do. Not because you have to decide anything, just so you understand your options." I made an appointment with a family law attorney that same afternoon. Her office was downtown on the 14th floor of a glass building I'd walked past 100 times without ever thinking I'd have a reason to go inside. She was direct in the way that good professionals are direct. No drama, no judgment, just information. She explained what equitable distribution looked like in North Carolina. She explained what I would want to document. She asked about the shared checking account and told me calmly that I should open a personal account in my name only and begin directing a portion of my paycheck there, not to hide money but to protect myself. I drove home and sat in my car in the driveway for 7 minutes. Then I went inside and made dinner, and his brother ate most of it before my husband got to the table, and my husband laughed about it like it was charming, and I smiled at the right moments. And I started looking at apartments on my phone after they both fell asleep. The thing that finally made it all collapse happened on a Thursday. I got home from work at 6:15. There was a car in the driveway I didn't recognize. Inside the house, there were two people I'd never met sitting in my living room. His brother introduced them as friends from his old job. He'd invited them for dinner. In my kitchen, there was a pot of something on the stove that someone else had started cooking with my groceries. I stood in the doorway of my own kitchen for a moment, took a breath, set my work bag on the counter. My husband came in from the back hallway. He looked at me. He said, cheerfully, "Oh good, you're home. Can you grab more pasta from the pantry? We're a little short." "No," I said. He blinked. "What?" "I'm not grabbing pasta. I'd like to talk to you in the bedroom, please." He looked back toward the living room, then back at me, the way you look at someone when you're calculating whether a scene is about to happen. "Now," he said, "please." We went to the bedroom. I closed the door. I told him, very calmly, that I was not comfortable with people I had never met being in my home without my knowledge, eating food I'd bought, and that I needed him to understand this was not negotiable. He told me I was embarrassing him in front of his friends. I told him that wasn't my concern right now. He told me I had changed since my promotion, that I was acting like the house was mine and he was a guest, that his brother and his brother's friends deserved to feel welcome because they were family and family came first. And then he said the thing that I have turned over in my mind many times since. He said, "You make good money now. You can afford to be generous. If you're not willing to take care of the people in this house, maybe I need to reevaluate some things." I looked at him. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means maybe we're not on the same page about what this marriage is supposed to look like." I nodded. Slowly. "Okay," I said. "I think I understand." I walked back out into the hallway. I said to the people in my living room that something had come up and we'd need to reschedule. I was very polite about it. I got them their coats. I thanked them for coming. His brother stood in the kitchen doorway and watched me the whole time with this expression, like he was seeing something he wasn't sure he was allowed to see. After they left, my husband came back out and looked at me like I had done something monstrous. I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and submitted an application for an apartment I'd been watching for 2 weeks. I got approved in 3 days. I told no one until the approval came through. Not my mom, not my friend, not my husband. I told the landlord I could be ready to sign the following Monday. She said that worked. I signed the lease on a Monday afternoon. I put it in my name only. First month, last month, and security deposit. I paid it from the personal account I'd opened 3 weeks earlier, the one that had been quietly accumulating the portion of my paycheck I'd redirected. I want to be clear about this part because I think it matters. I did not clean out the shared account. I did not take anything that wasn't mine. I left everything exactly as it had been and simply stopped adding to it. I paid my attorney to draft a letter notifying my husband's attorney of my intent to file for separation under North Carolina law. The letter was sent on a Tuesday. On that same Tuesday, while I was at work, I had asked my friend to be at the house with a key I had copied. She and I had made a plan the weekend before. She brought two other friends. They took my personal items, my work documents, my laptop, the things on my side of the closet. They were done in under 3 hours. When I came home that evening, I didn't go inside. I sat in my car in the driveway, texted my husband that I had moved out, that he would be hearing from my attorney, and that I hoped he'd use the time to think seriously about the decisions he'd made over the past several months. He called me 11 times in the next 2 hours. I didn't answer. My friend was already at the apartment with takeout when I arrived. My mom called at 8. I told her everything, the whole of it, not the managed version I'd been giving her. She cried again, different from the first time. This was the kind of crying that knows something was building for a while and is relieved it finally broke. "You sound like yourself," she said. "I think I am," I said. Here is the part that people ask about, because it's the part that surprised even me. A week after I moved out, my husband came to the apartment. I don't know how he found it. My attorney has her own theory. She thinks he called the property management company associated with the HR resource I'd used, explained he was my spouse, and someone gave him more information than they should have. We followed up on it. It's something we're still documenting. He rang the buzzer. I saw his name on the intercom panel and I did not open the door. I called my attorney immediately. She told me to stay inside, document the time, and call the building manager. I did all three. The building manager went down and asked him to leave. He didn't make a scene. He just left. But he came back the next day. This time, I was ready. I had already spoken with my attorney about next steps, and I had filed for a domestic civil no-contact order based on the apartment access incident and a previous incident in which he'd taken $4,800 from our joint account without discussion, money I had direct deposited that week, and that was documented as mine. The no-contact order was granted on an emergency basis. His attorney called my attorney. My attorney said all communication was to go through her. That should have been the end of it. It mostly was. But about 3 weeks later, I made a mistake. His mother called me, not him. His mother, whom I'd always had a decent relationship with, who had been kind to me at holidays and who, I genuinely believed, didn't know the full picture of what had happened. She asked if I would have coffee with her. She said she just wanted to understand. I went. I know. My attorney had advised me not to have any direct contact with family members who might report back. I went anyway because I still, somewhere in me, wanted to be fair. His mother met me at a coffee shop on a Saturday morning. She was already there when I arrived. She looked tired. She looked like someone who'd been up worrying. I sat down, and I felt genuinely sorry for her. Not sorry for myself, sorry for her. And that sympathy made me lower my guard by about 3 inches. Which is exactly when my husband walked in. He had been waiting somewhere nearby. She had not come there to understand. She had come there to create an opening. He sat down across from me before I could stand up. He wasn't loud. He was very controlled. He said he wanted to talk. He said he wanted to talk. He said he made mistakes. He said he missed me. I looked at him. I looked at him, Mother. I said, "This is a violation of the no-contact order." He said the order didn't apply in a public place. My attorney told me later that this is a common misunderstanding. No-contact orders apply regardless of location. He was wrong. And what he'd done by showing up like that was something I could use. I stood up. I did not say anything else. I walked out of the coffee shop, got in my car, and called my attorney from the parking lot. She filed an update that same afternoon. I cried on the drive home. Not because I was sad he hadn't changed, because I was sad that some part of me had still hoped he might have. The formal separation process in North Carolina requires that spouses live separately for 1 year before a divorce can be filed. I was 6 months in by the time the dust had fully settled on all the interim paperwork. The no-contact documentation, the joint account resolution, the letter from his attorney about the property. My attorney handled everything calmly and thoroughly. The financial picture was cleaner than I feared because I had kept records. The notes app I'd started in the middle of everything turned out to be one of the more useful things I'd done. Dates, specifics. The exact words people had used. I had a timeline that held up. My husband eventually moved his brother out of the house. I heard this through my attorney, not through him. Apparently, the brother found a room to rent somewhere east of the city. The property management investor my husband worked with reduced his hours significantly around the same time, which I also heard secondhand, which I did not feel good about. But I also did not feel responsible for. The house went on the market 4 months after I moved out, as part of the separation agreement. We split the equity based on proportional contribution, which my attorney had documented carefully. My portion was enough to serve as a down payment. I bought a condo. My name on the deed. My name only. I am still in the finance manager role. I was asked 8 months after the promotion to lead a cross-department initiative on quarterly reporting. My manager told me the team specifically asked for me. I live alone in a place that is quiet in the way I forgot places could be. My commute is 16 minutes. I have a balcony that faces east, and in the mornings before work, I sit out there with coffee and I don't manage anyone's feelings or account for my presence or rehearse how to say things so they won't land badly. My friend comes over on Thursdays. My parents came and stayed for a weekend last spring, and my dad assembled the bookshelf I've been putting off. My mom cried again, the good kind, when she saw how settled it all looked. I'm not going to pretend the last 2 years were easy. They weren't. There are still things I'm untangling about how long I excused behaviors that I shouldn't have excused, about the version of myself who sat in that kitchen after being told good for you and decided not to say anything. But I also know this. The night the bonus came through, when I sat in that parking garage looking at the number on my phone, I felt something real. That feeling was mine. It belonged to me before I ever walked through that door and told anyone about it. It still does. I keep thinking about that parking garage, the way the notification just sat there on my screen, quiet and still, while my whole chest felt like it might give out from something that wasn't quite joy and wasn't quite disbelief. Just this raw, solid thing I didn't have a word for yet. I had worked for that number, 3 years of staying late and taking the harder projects and proving, over and over, that I could handle more. That feeling in the car was the honest return on all of it. What happened when I walked through my own front door that night was something else entirely. What I've come to understand is that the way my husband responded to my success wasn't random. It was a pattern I'd been too close to see clearly. Every time I moved forward, something shifted in him, not toward pride, not toward partnership, but toward control. The brother moving in wasn't really about family loyalty. The unilateral decisions, the reframing of every boundary I tried to name as hostility, the comment about how I could afford to be generous, it was all the same thing wearing different clothes. He needed the balance of power to stay where it had always been. My promotion broke that, and he spent months trying to restore it. Understanding that didn't make it hurt less, but it made my choices make sense to me in a way they hadn't before. The notes app I started keeping in the middle of everything, that was the first real act of clarity I managed. Not dramatic, not confrontational, just honest. I started trusting what I observed over what I was being told to feel about it. That quiet insistence on my own perception, even when every conversation was designed to make me doubt it, was probably the thing that saved me more than anything else. My attorney told me once that the clients who come in most prepared are almost always the ones who started writing things down before they knew why. I think that's true of more than just legal situations. Paying attention carefully to what's actually being said, to what's actually happening, to the distance between how things are described and how they are. That's not paranoia. That's being awake. And then there was the harder part, the coffee shop. Walking in and seeing him already there, already seated, watching me the way you watch something you've planned for. I had let myself hope. That's the part I'm most honest with myself about now. Not angry at, just honest. I went because some part of me still wanted the story to end differently. It didn't. But walking out of that coffee shop, calmly, without a scene, straight to my car, straight to my attorney, that was mine. That was something I did right when it mattered. I think a lot about the version of myself who sat in that kitchen after he said good for you and put his earbud back in. She didn't say anything. She got up and made dinner. I don't blame her. She was doing what she'd learned to do. But she was also paying attention, even then. even when she told herself she wasn't. The notes app came later, the attorney came later, the lease came later. None of it came from nowhere. What you build quietly in the small decisions, in the moments where you choose to see clearly instead of conveniently, that accumulates. It becomes the foundation you stand on when the larger moment finally arrives. The condo faces east. I sit on the balcony in the mornings and I don't manage anything. The coffee gets cold sometimes because I forget to drink it. My dad assembled the bookshelf and complained about the instructions, and that was one of the best weekends I've had in years. I earned that too.